Hello, my name is John Miller, and I'm a sinner saved by grace who's been called into the ministry. I've been in pastoral ministry for the last 15 years and had the privilege to serve in 4 different churches as a pastor and church planter. I also work with Covenant Baptist Theological Seminary to train men for the ministry. I serve as the vice president there and also as the professor of practical theology. I think the most important thing to remember from what we've heard today is that the Lord Jesus Christ is on the throne. He is ruling and reigning, and by his sovereign hand, he is at work building his church. And therefore, we've been called to be involved in this work as part of the means that he uses. We have every reason to be encouraged and optimistic as the Lord is working to build his church on the earth through his church today. In the first session, we were looking at the providence of God and church planting, and seeing from the book of Acts the different ways in which the Lord Jesus is building his church, both in ways which maybe we don't always think about. In Acts chapter 11, that it was the hand of the Lord that brought about the persecution. He himself committing no sin in it, but using it for the spread of those who would go and take the gospel, which resulted in the planting of the church in Antioch. And at the same time, we see how the Spirit of Christ works through a church already planted, Antioch, and calls particular men to be sent from the church and to go and to take the gospel to those who have not heard. In the second session, we were considering how God's providence and guidance work together, and understanding that when we think about guidance, we're not to think about it as maybe trying to read some signs in the sky, but that the Lord Jesus does guide his church. He calls us both to understand his word and to seek to use wisdom with the revelation that he's given, but also then to recognize that he guides and directs. We see that in both in Acts chapter 16, in the different ways in which Paul and his missionary team, Paul and Silas and Timothy, they're provided for and also guided certain places not to go to Asia, not to go to Bithynia, but the hand of Christ in that sense, directing them to go to Troas, where they end up in Macedonia, because that's where the Lord is directing them. And so we can trust the Lord's providence in guiding us in the work of missions. In the final session, we were looking at God's providence in relation to strategy. Is it right to think about having strategies if we're relying on the sovereign God and his providence? And the answer to that question is yes. We should have both. The reality of God's providence and sovereignty, recognizing that strategy is something that we are called to do. And you can see some of the strategy of the Apostle Paul and his team there in Acts 17, going to strategic places, and also how there is a strategic preaching that takes place and other aspects of that. Trusting in the Lord as the seed of the word is sown, that those who are to come to life will come to life as that word sown sprouts and bears fruit. Those that are to be passed over, God is sovereign in those things as well. But we can be encouraged as we seek to spread the word, to sow the seed of the word, trusting in our sovereign God, being strategic about it, and trusting him in what will result. My encouragement to the members of Trinity Baptist Church here is to continue in the work of missions more and more. Just like in the church of Thessalonians, one of the things that the Apostle Paul said is that you love one another, do so more and more, continue to abound in it. You are already a church that has been involved in the work of mission, and you've been given many gifts and graces from the Lord Jesus Christ. And so my encouragement is to press into that more, knowing that the Lord can use you more and more. And while there will be certainly challenges and difficulties, certainly there can be a sense of pain and suffering when certain members and beloved ones that you have here in this church are sent away to start a new church. Know that this is all part of God's perfect plan and purpose. And in going through that suffering, you will also know great joy, and even the greater joy of more brothers and sisters who will be added to Christ's church that will be with you forever in heaven, in the new heavens, the new earth. So press on, do not give up, and continue in what Christ has called you to do.